Audiobook Academy Biography presents Moses SITHOLE. Moses SITHOLE, a notorious serial murderer in South Africa, was convicted in 1997 after pleading guilty to 38 counts of murder and 40 counts of rape. Moses SITHOLE is regarded as one of the deadliest serial murderers in South African history. 38 killings and 40 rapes were committed by SITHOLE in 1997. A large number of SITHOLE's victims have never been identified. Life in the earlier years. Situated in the Transvaal province of South Africa under apartheid, now Gauteng, SITHOLE was born on November 17, 1964 to parents Simon and Sophie SITHOLE in Vosloorus. In the wake of his father's death and his mother's inability to care for the children were abandoned at a nearby police station, deepening their poverty-stricken upbringing. After 3 years in an orphanage in KwaZulu-Natal, SITHOLE, the younger of the two, was forced to flee with his older brother Patrick and seek work in the Johannesburg gold mines, where he was subjected to a pattern of systemic abuse. SITHOLE's sexual prowess was evident at a young age, although his partnerships lasted only a few months at most. According to others, he may have developed an aggressive attitude toward women because of his mother's abandoning of her children. He also reportedly warned his rape victims about his own unpleasant experiences with a previous lover. Most of SITHOLE's victims were lured to their deaths in broad daylight by promises of career possibilities that never materialized. SITHOLE has been described as an attractive and charismatic man. Despite his social ease and sophisticated attitude, the spate of savage assaults were even more disturbing, and he was finally charged with 38 murders and 40 rapes. The identities of many of SITHOLE's victims remain a mystery. Crimes. Patrika Khumalo, a 29-year-old woman who testified against SITHOLE in his 1996 trial, was the first victim of SITHOLE's rape in September 1987. Biaswa Doris Swakamiza, who was raped in February 1989, is one of 3 known rape victims who have come forward. SITHOLE was arrested and tried as a result of a police report she filed at the time. 6 years later, he was sentenced to 6 years in prison for the rape of Swakamiza in Boksburg prison. At the conclusion of the trial, SITHOLE maintained his innocence and was released early in 1993 for good conduct. SITHOLE's stint in prison may have taught him that rape victims who are kept alive face repercussions. After he was released from prison, he went on a rape and murdering spree in Atteridgeville, west of Pretoria. Between January and April 1995, the bodies of 4 young black women who had been strangled and possibly raped were found. From this point on, an unimaginably horrific series of events unfolded. Police were compelled to confess that a serial killer may be operating in the area after the media became aware of the similarity in the killings of each victim. The discovery of the body of one victim's 2-year-old kid sparked increased media attention, but in a nation accustomed to violence, media attention was fleeting. After other victims were discovered near Pretoria in the following months, all with the same horrifying pattern of being raped, tied up, and strangled with their own underwear, the public began to take notice. When a witness spotted SITHOLE acting suspiciously with a young woman on July 17, 1995, he went to investigate and found her body. The witness was unable to identify the killer since he was too far away. Pretoria's murder and robbery unit set up a special team to investigate whether there was a pattern to the murders, but the method of assault varied so much that it was hard to tell who was involved. As more bodies were found and identified, it became clear that the killer was refining his methods to inflict greater misery on his victims, presumably for his own amusement, rather than simply disposing of them. In a considerable majority of cases, the victim had met someone who had offered them job, which was his method of approach. Discovered in Van Dyke Mine near Boksburg on September 16, 1995 was an unidentified body. Mass graves were discovered after further examination. Over the next 48 hours, forensic scientists recovered 10 bodies in various stages of decomposition. They were convinced that the bodies found in Boksburg were linked to those found in Atteridgeville. Throughout the recovery process, media attention was strong, and even President Nelson Mandela made a visit to the ghastly discovery. As media attention grew, local authorities requested the assistance of retired FBI profiler Robert Ressler, who came on September 23 of that year to soothe public anxiety. The serial killer's profile was helped by him. An organized, intelligent assassin with a high sex drive was suspected of the crime, and the profile suggested that he may have had the assistance of a second assassin. Arrest. Investigations at the cemetery indicated that one of the victims, Amelia Rapidal, was last seen before an appointment to visit Moses SITHOLE on September 7. They discovered an application for a job at the company that stated she had been accepted. Cops were certain that SITHOLE was the culprit as a second victim had a similar relationship to him. SITHOLE, on the other hand, remained undeterred by the pursuit and the public attention, and continued his murdering rampage. On October 3, 1995, a body was found near Benoni believed to be Agnes Mbouli's. On the same day, a man calling himself a serial killer called the Star newspaper. Police were inclined to believe it was SITHOLE because he had knowledge that was not widely known. 3 more bodies were discovered over the next 10 days, requiring authorities to reveal SITHOLE's information to the public when an attempt to speak with him failed. On October 18, 1995, SITHOLE sought to get help from family members, but he was stopped by undercover police officers. The police officer shot him in the leg and stomach because he refused to go down without a fight. Having been taken to the hospital, SITHOLE underwent surgery before being transported to the military hospital in Pretoria, where he confessed to a slew of murders during interrogation with police officers. SITHOLE said he was the sole perpetrator of the murders, and that others had used his methods to do the crimes. In court, a police assertion that he relinquished his right to an attorney when giving his confession was rejected. Moses SITHOLE was accused with 29 murders in Brakpan Magistrates Court on October 23, 1995. On November 3, 1995, SITHOLE was taken to Boksburg prison, where he had previously spent a rape sentence, to await his trial. At the time, he was reported to be HIV positive in the news. Trial. The allegations against SITHOLE had grown to include 38 counts of murder, 40 counts of rape, and 6 counts of robbery by the time his trial began on October 21, 1996. All allegations against him were dismissed when he entered a not guilty plea. Before SITHOLE's first conviction for rape, the prosecution used testimonies from his initial victims to paint a picture of his crimes in chronological order. A thorough investigation ensued, including testimony concerning the purported employment offers and the particular methods used to lead his victims to their deaths, after his link with each of the deceased victims. SITHOLE maintained a calm demeanor at all times. A videotaped confession by SITHOLE, made while he was in jail, was shown to the jury on December 3, 1996, in which he admitted to 29 murders. However, although he claims that he began killing just in July 1995, he explains in detail how he picked his victims based on how closely they resembled the rape victim Biaswadoris Swakamisa. It took until January 29, 1997 before the judge determined on the admissibility of the tape, which was illegally recorded in a detention cell, and the technical challenges surrounding it and SITHOLE's first confession, to force the trial to stretch on until July 29, 1997. On August 15, 1997, the prosecution rested its case. To a significant extent, the defense relied on SITHOLE's denials of involvement in the killings when he testified, but his evidence was frequently meandering and incoherent. Moses SITHOLE was convicted guilty of all charges on December 4, 1997, more than a year after the case began. A lengthy reading of the verdict resulted in the postponement of sentencing until the next day. SITHOLE was sentenced to death by the judge the following day, saying that he would have no qualms about doing so because of the severity of the offenses. The death penalty in South Africa had been deemed unlawful by the Constitutional Court in 1995, thus SITHOLE was sentenced to 2,410 years in prison, with at least 930 years of the time spent without the prospect of parole. The punishment was clearly designed to keep SITHOLE in prison for the remainder of his life. Aftermath. Pretoria Central Prison's C-Max cell block, South Africa's highest security cell block, was home to SITHOLE. Even though he's in prison, he's getting better care for his HIV than most South Africans can afford, and he may be able to live a much longer life. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button for more content like this. See you in next video.